All right, so let's go to the platform, and I'm going to just kind of take what they've done here and just sort of build upon it. So I'm going to make a mammal class and a human class that extends mammals. I'm just going to use this code, and then we'll go from there and go into interfaces. So let me get to my Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to go into demos, and I'm going to say advanced OOP, and we'll just call it that. That's fine. Okay, so we have a mammal class. Oh, I'm sorry. Where is it? Mammal class. So let's make the mammal class first. I'm just going to copy this code and paste, create our mammal class, mammal.java, paste the code. So a mammal has some fields and some methods. So what is the field that a mammal class has? Anybody there? You guys still here? So
It's sleeping. Right?
sleeping, right? So the only field it has is sleeping. It also regulates temperature. It can start sleeping and is sleeping, right? So we have basically sleeping is a Boolean, and we can start sleeping, which basically just sets the sleeping attribute to true. And yeah. All right, so let's go to make our human. So the human has just a single attribute. So let me make our human file. Human.java. Paste that in there. Why is it bad? Extends mammal.
You have two curlies, like at the end,
Oh yeah,
like 8 and 9.
that was weird. Okay, cool. That was it. Thank you. Okay, so I've got my mammal class. I've got my that is the base class or the super class, and then the human inherits from this. Okay, so the human extends mammal, so that means that all the methods that are available in the mammal class are also available in the human class. So I'm going to make another file called main.java, and that's going to be the entry point that we're going to basically play with our classes. Okay, so I've got my human. I open this side. So if the main is going to be the entry point, what do I need?
Public static void main string.
Public static void main. And if I want to create an instance of my human in here, what do I do?
Capital H human. Variable name.
I'm gonna call it human. I know that's not the best, but
Equal to new human, right?
there you go.
Prince.
New human. Cool. And the human can go to work, right? And it should system.out.println, I'm going to work. So let's test that out. Okay, and if I run this, I'm going to work. Okay, so
for that, you know, when you do like capital human and then variable name, you only need to do that when that class is in a different file, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So good rule of thumb is you want to put one class, one file, right? So you can put multiple classes in the same file, but it's not the best practice. So you want to have, if you have a human class, a mammal class, all that, you want to keep them in separate files. Excuse me. So what I'm doing here is I'm making an instance of my human class, just like I made an instance of my Tesla. So this human, let's say this is Richard.
Oh, good. Because like when in our algo session, like there's the part where they were all in the same file. So
Right. Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So the well, so the capital H human is saying the type of this variable. So that's why when we did it in JavaScript, we don't have to do that. We don't have to say that it's a singly linked list or anything like that. But in Java, we have to, it's strongly typed. So we need to specify what Richard is. Okay. Does that answer your question? I hope.
yeah.
You hesitated. But is that clear? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now I've changed the name to Richard just to indicate that this is an individual instance of the human, and Richard is definitely human. So if I run it again, it's going to do the same thing. So I'm going to work now because human extends mammal. We can also start sleeping, right? So I can say Richard, start sleeping. Please don't actually do it. But now we should be able to run this and Richard's asleep. Okay. Pretty straightforward, right? Anybody, any questions so far? Okay. Let's say I have my mammal class and regulates temperature. Let's say that I have another class called animal. Animal.java. Okay. We all know what an animal is, right? Well, we all have an idea in our head when I say the word animal, right? Is a mammal an animal? Or is an animal a mammal?
Mammal is an animal.
Yeah, because not every animal is a mammal, right? Does that make sense? So what I'm suggesting is that animal is or should be a superclass of mammal, right? So what I'd like to do is I'm going to start populating my universe with creatures here. So I think all animals sleep, right? I don't know if I think I'm going to assume that's true. This isn't a zoology lesson. So let's assume that all animals sleep, or all organisms sleep, I guess. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it from here. I'm going to put it in here. Okay. I also need to take out this sleeping and put it in my animal class.
Quick question, Tyler.
Sure.
This is you creating an abstract class, right?
Yeah, I guess it could be abstract. Yeah. Yeah, because I don't want, it doesn't make sense to instantiate an animal. That is right. Good. I didn't even think of that. You're right. Does
Cool.
that make sense to everyone? Does everybody understand Braxton's question?
I barely understand it. So
So it makes sense. In what I've created so far, I wouldn't want to make an animal instance, right? Because everything animal is basically where I'm keeping all the code that everything is going to inherit down the line. So I'm making a more general class than a mammal, just as I wouldn't really make a mammal either. Animal would be an abstract class as well, because I don't, you wouldn't go to the zoo and say, hey, where are your mammals, right? And oh, there's a mammal over there in that cage, right? You would need to be more specific than that.
I mean, in that case, everything's abstract if you can make it more specific.
Well,
Well, it's there's abstract, there's concrete. Like if you think about like a dog is a specific animal,
right.
but you can't have like there is no such thing as just a mammal, right?
Right.
Like you have to be more specific for that thing to exist. There's no just this is mammal, right? There's no this is animal. There's types of animals, there's specific animals, but animal as itself is an abstract concept. There's no such thing as just an animal, right? That's kind of where it gets
Yeah,
to.
that's where I'm trying to head. So now that I've done that, any other questions? I don't want to go too fast.
I mean, could you not say that about most things? Like, there's no specific animal. Like, there's no specific human.
But is there like a subclass of human? I mean, you could, we're treading on
Yeah, it's
thin
a
ice here. I don't want to.
I know what you mean.
So
I know
I
you-
would say that human would be an endpoint, right? Because you could
Okay.
say maybe male, female, but even there, I'm getting nervous, right? So
Okay.
if I'm going to make Richard, you're going to be a human,
Right.
because I don't want to get up in your Kool-Aid and talk about what you identify as, right? So
Right.
human's sort of the end of the line.
Okay. No,
Okay.
that's a very good answer to my question. I know.
And with the point of like, yeah, you have different humans, but like those would be all instances of human, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
that's why humans okay with being an endpoint,
Yeah.
right? So you can have wildly different humans, but they still all fit into that human class because they're instances of human with different
Right.
fields and properties and methods and things like that, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe humans maybe wasn't a great example for me to ask, but yeah, okay. I know what you mean. I know you didn't mean it as that could have, I know you didn't mean it how it could be taken out of context.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it is sort of like, and it gets
I know,
a little
yeah.
maybe fuzzy what's concrete and what's abstract, right?
Right.
But we decide where
Okay.
it ends, right? I'm going to go a little further, so it's but you'll see. Maybe it'll get more clear as I go forward. Okay, so I've made a super class of the mammal class. So now if I save my mammal and I go to my human, I think we're gonna have some problems. Yes, we do. So I say Richard is a human, and I want him to start sleeping, but method start sleeping is undefined for type human. Okay, so how do I get that back? How do I get Richard to the point where he can start sleeping?
is it as simple as extending the mandel? Yeah.
Well,
mammal
we've already
class?
extended the mammal. What do we need to extend? I'm getting crazy with what is our relationship? Where it is, we agreed that a mammal is an animal, right?
So class mammal extends animal, right?
There you go. Yeah.
And that inherits all those methods.
Mm-hmm. So as long as we keep our chain of extending going, then we're good. So now if I go to main, main is no longer red. So now Richard can get some sleep. If I run it, we're going to be fine. Yep, he's sleeping. Okay. Everybody with me so far?
I bet that has to get crazy in the workplace, the inheriting, right?
I mean, yeah, it could get pretty complex, right? Now, I have to look this up every time. I believe a bird. I want to make a bird. Are birds mammals?
No, they are not.
They are not. And I looked it up and I can't remember what it is. I believe it's birds are,
Avians.
yeah, AVES, right?
IANS. So AVIANS. Yeah.
Cool. Job.
Are they not government drones?
don't
I'm
even,
glad someone got that.
don't even go there. Don't even go there. So, are avians mammals?
No.
No. Are they animals?
Yes.
Yes. So I can look at my animal class and say, okay, I'm if birds don't sleep, I apologize, but I believe birds sleep. So if I extend my avians class, or have my avians class extend animal, now I can make a bird, right? So I'm just going to say that bird is the end of the line. I know there are different types of birds, but we're going to keep it simple. So now I want a bird class. Bird.java. Okay. How do I get the abilities that a bird is an animal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bird is also an avian. So a bird can inherit all the attributes and qualities of an animal and of an avian. I can just have bird extend avians, and I'm good to go, right? Everybody agree?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. Cool. Extends avians. Now I'm in a position, and I'm going to close some of these for now because I'm getting lost, but I want my main.
Would it be better convention if you like, because some of them are doing like plural and some of them are not, to make them all
Did
like,
I? I'm sorry. Yeah, I should probably take that S off, right? You're right. Let me rename it. Is it avian that's the genus?
Yeah, it's avian.
Cool. Let's see now. Cool, it did it for me. Cool. Now I want to make a bird. That's probably a bad example.
A big bird? No, that's not. What's wrong
Well-
with it?
Well, because I'm going somewhere with this, and I don't.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm gonna say sparrow.
Let's see. I don't think Sesame Street didn't get in trouble for anything, did they?
No,
That's always worth
but
it.
I have a there's a method to my madness, so I don't want any question as to whether my bird can fly. That's just where I'm
Oh, big bird's somewhat
Yeah.
human.
going.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if he can fly. I haven't watched Sesame Street in years, so I don't know. But
True.
now my sparrow can start sleeping, right? And if I run this, I get Richard sleeping and my sparrow sleeping. Okay. Now I've got my bird. I want to make a bat. What is a bat?
I believe they're mammals.
They are.
Mhm.
Okay, I thought so.
So if my bat extends mammal, now I can go into main and what did the mammal do again? Regulate temperature. That's what I was looking for. I believe that, shoot, now I'm Do birds regulate are birds cold-blooded?
Yeah,
Cool. All right, cool.
they're closer to reptiles than anything
Yeah,
else.
that's what I was thinking. So a mammal can regulate their temperature, but a bird can't. So a bat is a mammal, so it can regulate its temperature. So if I go into Maine and I make a bat,
We're talking about regulating temperature. We're talking. It's just sweating, right?
I think so.
Okay. All right. I know this is kind of unrelated, but
Yeah, it's yeah. So I'm just gonna say bat. I don't know any famous bats. New bat. All right, so now a bat, my instance of a bat can regulate its temperature, and I don't know what that does. I'll just run it. Okay. My temperature is just right. Awesome. But sparrow, not regulate temperature. That shouldn't work. It doesn't. Cool. Right? Because a sparrow is cold-blooded. It's not a mammal.
can you run that just to show the error that would populate? Sorry.
No worries at all. So it's probably going to say it won't compile.
Right.
Yeah. Failed to compile. Do you want to continue? Yes. So just, what is the error? Exception.
Okay, just it's undefined for that
Yeah.
type.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Yeah. Okay. Now here's the problem in my little universe. Bats can fly and birds can fly. I want them to be able to fly. Where do I put my fly method? Should I put it in avian? Should I put it in mammal?
Did you create a class of like flying mammals?
I did not.
I mean, that's
So I don't want to put it in mammal, right? Because actually bats are the only mammals that are capable of true flight, right?
Oh, okay. Why I didn't realize that. Okay.
And yeah, because the only other animal is the squirrel, but they don't really fly; they glide.
Why?
So putting it in mammal
Oh,
is I'm going to back myself into a corner, right?
okay.
Putting it in avian is also going to create a problem because bats can fly, but they're not avians.
Perfect.
So what do I do? I'm in trouble. I need your. So what your suggestion was, make a class called flyable, right?
Interface.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm going to make flyable .java. But you're right, it's not a class, it is an interface. Okay. Now, if it's an interface, what does an interface have?
Abstract.
So it has it, all it contains is, I'm blanking, method signatures, right?
Just methods.
Just, yeah, it doesn't, yeah, it's not even method, it doesn't have, no, I'm forgetting. I gotta peek.
Not part of the class. Yeah. It's just like
I
function.
think it can have fields and methods, but yeah, that normally it doesn't have concrete implementations. Technically, it can have default implementations of Java, but yeah, mostly you just put the signatures.
Yeah, I don't want
Quick
to
question. When you say fields, you're just meaning attributes, right? Are those interchangeable?
In Java, we call that attributes or properties fields. It's just convention in terms of terminology, but it's the same thing.
Okay, cool. So fields, gotcha.
So Christian, do I need the access modifier? That's what I can't remember. Do I need-
I think you do. I think you need to have the abstract in there, unless you're going to give it a default implementation. And I think you need to have.
and I don't
I
know.
don't think you put the pot. No,
That's it, right?
I think you need abstract. for
you
that.
need the abstract if you're not going to give it a default implementation.
So public abstract.
Yeah.
Cool. That's what I wanted. All right. So now I have my flyable interface because the way I've constructed things, and I've done this on purpose, obviously, I don't want the avian to have the class and I don't want the mammal to have the class, but I want my bat and my bird to both be able to fly. Okay, so I want to take my bat and how do I implement, or how do I implement the flyable interface in the bat?
After mammal, you do implements.
There you go. Implements flyable. Okay. Now, this is where I suggest you don't use the force, use the tools. Okay. Notice that bat became red as soon as I implemented the flyable interface, right? If I hover over the bat, it will give me the option to add unimplemented methods. So if I just click that, I'm good to go. Okay. Now it's going to give me, it'll throw an exception on support, but I can just delete this stuff. And I can implement my method, which is just going to be something silly like the %s is flying. And it's this dot, I always forget, get class dot get, starts with an S, simple, where is it? Simple.
The second one. Will you explain the override again?
Yes.
Why we're having to override that one?
So the override is an annotation that it's basically there to help us if we make a mistake, any type of syntax or typos or anything like that. So if I forgot the name of this method and I called it flying, that annotation is going to signal this, basically throw this, hey, you're messing it up. It's not called flying, right? So if I did this by hand and I was just trying to implement this method without using the shortcut, and I forgot that it was fly instead of flying, then
And you
that's what the
created a new
override does.
method,
Yeah.
essentially.
It's just
I
there to
gotcha.
protect you. Make sure you don't mess it up.
Right on.
Okay. So now the bat implements my flyable method. I'm sorry, my flyable interface. So now if I go back to main, and if I say bat.fly, if I didn't mess it up, we should see the bat is flying, and we do. Okay. So I also want to be able to say sparrow.fly, but it's not working. What do I need to do?
Go to bird and implement.
Yep. Go to my bird superclass, implements flyable, and again, use these tools. Okay. So hover over the bird, add unimplemented methods, and then I guess I'd have to do it again. I should have done that in the interface, but I'll just go with this.
What do you mean by should have done it in the interface?
I can do that, right? Am I thinking of the right thing? Can
Are
I
you trying to?
specify? I don't want to muddy the waters here. I'm not. I don't remember the syntax. I don't want to have you guys watch me struggle with being able to figure it out. Let's just implement. Let's just do it this way. Let's have it implement the interface in two different places. It's sloppy, but so now I can say the %s is flying. And then this is this dot get class dot get.
Yeah, if you wanted to do a default implementation in the interface, you would just put default instead of abstract as your keyword, and then you would just make the method there.
Okay, thank you. Let me do that then, because I was going to ask you if you knew off the top of your head. I couldn't remember.
In
But
this,
go,
could
so I'm gonna
you-
go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, in this case, could you make it like a polymorphic thing?
You could, yeah.
Which is essentially what you're doing right now, right? By
Mhm.
implementing it in two different places, that fly method is essentially polymorphic, right?
Right.
It's the same method, but it works differently depending on the context of where it's being called from.
Yeah, so let's do it this way, and then maybe we can, I don't know, think of another method that we can implement in the interface. So now if I go to my main, now Sparrow's ready to fly. So if I run this, that we get the bird is flying. So let's go to flyable. So I would say public. What is the keyword, Christian?
Is default.
And what do flying things do?
Barrel roll?
Could do land.
Land. I like it. Land. Gotta be able to land. And then I would be able to say, can I use the same syntax? Could I be able to do S out?
Yeah.
Would I be able to reference this though?
I think you can.
Let's try it. The %s is landing. And let's see if we can do this dot get class dot get simple class name. It's not mad at me. Let's do sparrow.land. There we go. The bird is landing.
What's the default doing?
I'm sorry.
What's the default doing? The keyword.
So generally what we're going to do with interfaces is have it just be like when you implement the interface, you have to implement this class. Oh, I'm sorry, this method. So any class that implements the flyable interface has to have a method called fly that does something, right? So basically by the bird implementing the flyable interface, it's agreeing to create this method. Okay. What I've done in addition is in my flyable interface, I've also created a method that's basically automatically going to be called when that interface is implemented. So I created the land that's going to work in any.
And you don't have to like put it in like you did fly.
Right. It just automatically gets implemented.
Not every language
so
has
I didn't
this
realize
feature,
that.
by the way, of being able to do defaults for interfaces. A lot of languages will force you to do the implementations. So some have this feature, some don't. But it can be pretty helpful in situations like this.
Yeah.
You know, Python had like that interface thing because I don't remember doing anything with that.
Oh, you mean when
When
we did it in school?
we did Python, when we took Python.
Python doesn't have interfaces. Yeah. This is a new.
Yeah, Python interfaces are not real it does have a form of interfaces.
It
It
does.
has but it mostly uses duck typing, which is like if there's two classes that have the same method that works the same way, the same or function signature, it will treat them as if they share an interface, even though you don't actually physically have an interface being implemented. There is ways to actually implement interfaces in Python, but they're not strictly enforced like they are in Java. So there's ways to do it, but it's not that popular.
Cool, cool. I learned something today. I didn't know there were any type of interface in Python. Any other questions?
Yeah, so just to reiterate, so like if you implement flyable, you absolutely have to put in a fly method inside the bird class or whatever class that you implement flyable in.
Yep.
But because we did a default in the implements, we do not have to put that one inside.
Right.
The
This
class.
method just kind of comes along for the ride. So since we made it a default, every class that implements this interface will get this method.
Okay, but that's still callable though, right? For
Oh, sure, I did it. Yeah, I called it on the Sparrow.
Can you define the abstract one? Because
I don't
Like-
think so. No.
The point of abstract is that it's not defined, right? So if you want to define it, you do default. If you don't want to define it, you do abstract, right? They're two conflicting concepts.
okay.
Cool. Any other questions? Let me just get a poll.
So what if you wanted like something, some function that it's the same, there's part of it that's like the same throughout everything, and then there's like a part that's different? Or would you just kind of make that separate somehow?
Can you override a default?
Yeah, I believe you can.
Let's try it. So let's have the bat. Override public void land.
And if you want to keep some shared behavior from that default implementation, you've always got the super, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So what is the super doing in this case?
is it flyable.super?
I think if you do super dot land,
Oh, yeah, super dot.
Okay.
Invoke super? No. I'll have to look it up. I'm not sure. But let's test one thing at a time. Let's make sure that I'm able to land like a bat.
oh yeah, you do have to call it as the interface dot super then dot the method. So it would have to be
Okay.
flyable dot super dot then the method.
In the bat class, right?
Yeah, where you're doing the override.
So what is it? Capital flyable
Mm-hmm.
dot super.
Mm-hmm. And then the dot land.
Cool.
That's
There
how
we
it
go.
is.
Cool. Now we get both. So we get the bat is landing, and then I land like a bat, bro. Cool. I usually don't go this deep into interfaces, so this is kind of cool. Any other questions? Let me dupe my poll.
One of the really nice things about interfaces is you can only inherit from one class at a time, but you can implement as many interfaces as you want.
Yeah.
And you can use interfaces as your type instead of just a class. So if you want to have a list of flyables, right, an array list of flyables, you can do that. So even though one's a mammal, one's an avian, they can be in the same list because they're both flyable, right? If you use flyable as the type of your list, right?
Yeah. Cool. Looks like everybody's on target. Share the results. Okay. Stop recording.